Welcome, friends, to the Play Guitar Podcast. I am Lee. I'm here to help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be if you play solos that aren't quite up to it. If they sound scattered, hesitant, they lack confidence. Well, we're gonna try and fix that today. So this is the podcast. This is the audio podcast. It goes out to all the podcast libraries around the world. But I also record this on video. So if you're on YouTube watching this, this is the audio version. There's going to be a lot of talking and helping in this. If you're looking for the guitar playing, please click the link in the description. I have a lesson video brand new for this week. And it's all about taking everything that we've learned over the last 5 weeks, the 5 last things we worked on, chord tone targeting, all of the different things we worked on, and combining them into getting one really nice solo and teaching you how to take these ideas and put them all together. And this came out Wednesday morning along with this podcast. So you should be able to click right over there. In this episode, we're going to go from weak and uncertain to confident and expressive playing. And I've got a little plan, a little 30-day plan maybe to help you out with that if that's something you struggle with. Let's talk about struggles. What's the biggest struggle for many guitar players? That's not feeling like you know what you're doing. Right? Everything that you learn, a lot of what you learn out there is by the numbers, right? Oh, I go from this number to this number to this number. You may not. That doesn't build confidence there. It's cool. You can play a bunch of songs. You'd say, hey, I can do this. But you may not understand how it works or why it works and how you could take those ideas somewhere else too. So not feeling in control, especially when improvising, right? You might be playing random notes when you could be playing solos that are intentional. They're there for a reason. I know it's hard to put that into words because we don't have words. We don't communicate with words. We communicate with different note choices and the way that we play those notes, the way that we put vocally putting notes out there that touch people in a certain way. And today I'm going to break down the 3 big areas when you're trying to build confidence with soloing. One is you got to know why your solo sound weak and how to fix it. 2 is a plan to go ahead. And then the 3 is what do you do after you got that plan? How do you maintain this? How do you keep it going? We've all done that. We have one really good gig, right? Or whatever that you play. One time it went really well and you got really excited. Next time you went back to it and stunk it up real bad. The second time, whew, right? And what does that do to your confidence? You go, oh, I must not have been as good as I thought I was. You ever thought that? Not good. So let's talk about that. The first thing, most common mistake in weak solos is there's no structure to it at all. It feels random. Aimless is what I hear all the time. When I play, it sounds aimless, or it sounds like scales, right? Going up and down. Well, at least scales is a structure of some sort. Something that I like to do is before I play a solo, I give myself a little direction. I might think something as simple as I'm going to start low on this one and build till I get higher and higher. Something that general. Does not have to be specific. I'm going to go into the Dorian mode when I get to pattern 1. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be just an overview, a line. How is this going to go? I'm going to start high and then go down real low and play some cool low stuff and then eventually build back up again. What is the structure of what you're going to play? I do that anytime I'm improvising, even if it's just for one of these lesson videos, right? I think about how's this going to come across in very general terms. Phrasing, right? Not having clear phrasing. If we just played a whole solo, note, people are going to tune out. Why is that? Because people are used to listening to the voice, the human voice, and we speak in sentences. Pockets of information. Okay, here's this one. Then give a second to breathe, right? And then here's another one. Okay, well, how does that fit in with the first one? Breathe, and then the next one. Another thing could be lack of control. You could be playing above your pay grade, right? You could be rushing all the time. You could be playing sloppy. I'm going to play this very difficult thing. And if you can kind of get, hey, that's a win, but it could be sloppy, right? Your picking could use work. You could be sliding up to the wrong note. You could be playing with no expression at all. You could just use no dynamics, which a lot of players do. They just play one volume all the time. Everything played the same way. Okay, so that's how things can mess up, but how can things get better? Well, let's think about it. When's the last confident guitar soloist you've seen, right? What makes a confident guitar solo? I think it would have direction. That's the number one thing. How about clear phrasing? This idea, then this idea, then this idea, and how they relate to the harmony behind. So playing musically, right? Not ignoring the chords behind you, but taking a minute to know something about those chords, because that's what you have to match. It's a matching game, right? Playing in musical sentences, using space intentionally, knowing when not to play. It's very important. When not to do something. When you're when you're playing and you think, gosh, it doesn't sound very good. Why doesn't it sound very good? A lot of times with especially newer guitar players, there's other notes and slop, strings ringing when you're not intending for those to play. But you're so focused on what to play that what not to play takes a back seat, and then it takes over, right? So it's in everything that you play. There's a little bit of sloppiness, right? How about to be a great player, playing with purpose, not guessing, not feeling like, hey, I got lucky. That one worked. That one worked out real good. I'm not guessing on this. No, I knew it was going to work out because I knew what I was going to hit this note right at the right time. I knew when that right time was, right? So, okay, we figured out what the problem is. We have kind of an idea of how it would be. How long is that going to take? How long is it going to take to build the confidence you need to be able to pull that off? Well, most people say, well, to master the guitar, you need 10,000 hours. Not really, in my opinion. You could spend 10,000 hours playing one song over and over again. Or in the case of a lot of people I know, a night of music, one night of music, they play the same night of music over and over and over and over again. 10 years goes by, 20 years goes by, 30 years goes by, 40 years. And you realize I'm playing the same songs that I played 40 years ago, and I'm not getting any better at them. I'm not working on things that don't sound good. I'm just playing the things that I know I can play over and over again. Does that sound familiar to you? It should. It should. There's a lot of that going on out there. You don't need years. You just need to have some focused practice. Work on this stuff. So I've got something for you. I have a 30-day framework. This is taking small, tiny improvements and building and building and building. Let's see what we do with this here. So also, one of the things that can pull the rug out from under you when you're trying to get better at this stuff is your thinking, your mindset. Confidence, I always feel, when I feel confident, it's usually because I feel prepared, or I've done it before and and it's repeatable. I had a good night of music, and it happened several times in a row. Okay, I feel confident that I can repeat this. I don't, anything can happen, but for the most part, I'm going to make it through pretty good, right? But what happens when you go into something thinking, oh, I'm gonna screw this up. Before you even start, before you even get in the car to drive to the place, oh, this isn't going to go good. This is bad. I shouldn't have ever done this. Right? I laugh because we've all felt this before, right? So coming into a musical situation where you're not confident is nerve-wracking, right? It's something that you can lose sleep over. So shifting your mindset to confidence. Confidence comes from preparation and repetition. I know when I go, we play a little gig down the street here, right? I know when I go to play, all my worry, all of my worrying about how the night's going to go, it revolves around gear most of the time. I worry if the PA is going to be set up right, if there's going to be a good mix. I worry if, is my amplifier working correctly? Does my pedal board, there's an intermittent cable in there, but I couldn't find it. I sure hope I get through the gig, and hope it all sounds good. I hope I get everything from the house to the gig and set up correctly. And I don't need anything. I didn't forget anything. Those are that's where I don't feel confident, right? But the minute it's all set up and everything sounds okay, that's the end of that for me. The rest of it is just playing music. And in that, I'm confident in. I know it's going to work. I can get through this. And even if something goes wrong, I'm confident enough to make my way out of that, right? Or even make it be humorous or even cool if there's something that you do wrong, but it just happens to work out nice. And those things happen all the time. So let's talk about it. It's a 30-day solo confidence plan, right? Let's do this by weeks. Week 1. What would you do to start being confident week 1? That'd be establishing some phrasing. Start practicing short phrases instead of running scales all the time. Limit yourself. I like to limit myself by the strings. I'll play a lick down here on the low 3 strings and then another lick on the high 3 strings. In all of these patterns, let's just do pattern 1 here, right? We've got octaves. We've got strong notes in each of those sections. This one happens to have 3, but some have 2, right? But so I might play a lick on the bottom 3 strings and the top 3 strings. There's 2 sections that I can create from, and I'll limit myself to that until I'm done with a short idea. That was a few notes, and they went the direction I wanted them to go, and they were using the intervals that I wanted to use to get that feeling across. And then I ended at some point with a strong note. Doesn't have to be the root note. It could be the 3rd, 5th, the 7th, even if you want to get kind of funky with it, right? But when that is an idea, it's done. It's behind me. Now I'm thinking about the next thing. Do I stay in that area or do I go to a new place? But I tend to limit myself. I've limited myself with notes. I'm only going to play 4 notes on this one, or places in the patterns, like I just said, the bottom and the top, or I'm going to play everything up high here. Why? Because there's another guitar player playing everything low, trying to do something different than everyone else. So limiting yourself to, let's say, 3 to 5 notes and create a solo. Another thing you can do in this first week is start to hum or sing along with what you play. You could even try that, singing a little something that you create in your head and then trying to play it on the guitar. This is going to help you organize the sounds in your head and be able to replicate them on the guitar anytime you want, and to make them sound very natural, right? It came from somewhere. They all came from your ideas, and then you figured them out on the guitar and they match each other. So that's week 1. You can do that however you practice, right? But in week 2, start paying attention to the chords. It could be on a 2-chord song. You could play A to E, have those chords back and forth, right? What are the notes? Even at its most basic, which no one even does this. A and E. Well, pay attention to where the A is and the E is. You're already doing it. I've said this before. You're already doing it when you play rhythm. Well, I got to find the A. Well, if I do an E-shaped chord, that's at the 5th fret. Where's the E? Well, the E on the low string is at the open. You're already finding A's and E's across the strings. Why not do them in your patterns as well, too? Then you have your strong notes, right? You have notes that you can rely on that sound finished when you play them, not up in the air. So doing some simple chord tone targeting, learning how to land on those, plan to play in the direction of those notes. This is going to change everything for you. Then if you decide not to do that, it's because you decided. It's because there's a reason for it. I'm not going to the root note right now. I'm not going to end this. I want this to go on a little bit. So I'm going to, go to the fourth, or, I'll do something different that kind of leaves things up in the air for a while, because that's what I'm intending to do. That intention it communicates. The listener picks up on that. You may not think anybody does, but it does. And you see that with other players too. So what you can do is play over backing track, hit the root of each chord, or the third of each chord, the fifth, seventh, right? But then go off to play anything you want, but then come back to it later on. That'd be a good way to bookend each phrase. Start with the root, end with the root, or start with the third, end with the third, or start with one chord, and then if you happen to move on in the backing track to the other chord, start with the root of that chord. So get used to changing what your strong notes are as the chords change. It's a matching game. This whole thing's a matching game. For example, for that B.B. King, he doesn't play a whole lot of notes, and it's him right away, and it's intentional what he's playing. He's doing these things on purpose. He's good at it. And it may only be a few notes, but they're right in the right place. How about week 3? What do you do in week 3 if you were going to do something like this? Let's work on feel for week 3. Expression. These are the things that people leave off all the time. But then you hear a pro guitar player, and it's filled with expression, right? What things give you expression? Bends, vibrato, slides, raking strings, dynamics, playing low and then very high, bending farther than you would think. A lot of David Gilmour's big wide bends are very, very, they say a lot. They make his playing sing, right? So what would you do with this? Play a lick, a little flat in this third week, play it normal, just the way you would play it, and then put in vibrato. Say, I'm putting vibrato in this one. And yeah, it'll sound forced at first, but it's going to get you in the practice of doing these things. And then as you're playing, that will start to creep in. With me, when I do something like this, that's game changing. I'm practicing something that is not part of my regular everyday playing. Let's say I never use vibrato. Well, I'm going to intentionally do it, practice it, so I can understand how it works, and I can do it if I wanted to. Usually it's 3 weeks for me after I practice something different, and I practice it to my fill. So I've made sure I've gotten everything that I'm going to get out of it, and I put it down for a while. And usually it's 3 weeks later. Oh, that was that thing I was doing a few weeks ago. Here it is. Look, I just played it out of nowhere. It kind of goes into this noggin, it sits in there for a while. I don't know what it does. And then 3 weeks later, it comes out. I don't know why 3 weeks, but that's the way it works for me, right? So you could experiment with dynamics, different levels of attack, how hard you hit the strings. You can play very soft. You can actually roll your volume down and play it with different tones at different dynamics. It's fantastic. But how about week 4? Playing with confidence and intent. Okay, we're putting it all together. Last week, we're going to take these things and we're going to record ourselves every single day for 7 days. That's 7 recordings. What are you going to do with these things? Well, you're going to use your practice. You can go through all the stuff that we talked about. We're going to play solos over backing tracks because we need that. You need to get your ear used to hearing what these notes are playing over. If you don't know how to match them, harmony is going to be tough for you, right? But you're going to listen back to your solos and write down what sounds intentional and what sounds like you don't know what you're doing, right? So pay attention to those parts where things went well. And think back, well, why did that happen? Well, this isn't an easy part of the scale. I wasn't worried about what notes I was going to play. But these other ones I were. Well, why is that? You were uncomfortable in those other patterns. Practice those patterns so you can get them to the place where it's comfortable sounding. Play along with a professional solo. right? So play the like the live version of a song that you like to play. Hear how they play it, right? And you play along. Then improvise over that song. Play a little bit over the song, your own thing, and see if it matches or not. Does it sit well with that? So let's move on to the last section here. So there's an idea. I'm just floating ideas out there. You might take a month to say, you know what, I'm going to change things. And what was that? Strong phrasing, note targeting, feel and expression, and playing with confidence and intent, listening to what you're playing and knowing that you'll be able to do it, recording yourself. Those 4 things are going to really push you forward. 30 days, you'll be a different player. But let's talk about after that. So after you've said, okay, I can do this stuff. I can play it. How do I keep this going on? Well, one of the problems that we have with guitar players, we do a lot of thinking about this, right? Because it's difficult. Anything that's difficult is worth a little thought. So at some point with me, I remember, I started playing when I was 12. At 15, I was playing in bands, little high school bands and those kind of things. By 17, I was really playing. And so when I was 17, when I learned something new, I was meticulous. I learned it perfectly. I wanted to do it just exactly like someone else did it there. I was overthinking it. By the time I got in my 20s, I was really playing in, bar bands and those kind of things. I started to forget that stuff. I started to learn how to play with feel. I trusted my own instincts instead of trying to make myself sound like someone else and mimic what their instincts were when they played that, right? I started trusting my ear. I started saying, what would be nice here? Just a single note. And let's see what happens. And I stopped. And if it sounded good, moved on. If not, forgot about it, right? So I tried it out. If it sounded good, great. I moved on. If it didn't sound good, I didn't worry about it, right? I didn't overanalyze every note. I played what I heard in my head instead of playing what someone else heard in their head. You see where I'm going with this, right? I'm not just, and also I stopped running scale patterns. That's when I started kind of limiting myself to different places. Next thing that you can do to move forward with this is create a go-to vocabulary of licks. I call it set lists. We do everything in set lists, right? It's a good habit to get into because when you're playing, if you ever want to perform out there, you're going to have groups of songs. And that's a great way of organizing things. Those set lists, I can organize my licks in as well too, having 5 or 10 easy licks that are universal, that you could pretty much use in any solo. Usually those are like blues based. You noticed the beginning of this year, I'm heavy on blues. There's a reason for that because there's a lot of people who are coming into different styles of music and the blues element of those music is foreign to them, right? And blues has seeped its way into all styles of music, right? So take your favorite blues licks, get 5 to 10 of them that you could use at any time and start practicing modifying them slightly. They don't have to be completely different to learn how to make them your own. Think about that. You have 10 licks and say for each of those 10 licks, you do something to the end. So you play it perfectly in the beginning, but at the end, you change up the rhythm or something like that. But for each one of those, change up the end. Then for each one of those, you change up the beginning. Then for each one of those, you reverse it, right? So what are we at? 40, 50 licks now? How many licks do you need to get through a song? Not that many. I tell you that. And the last thing that you can do to really build your confidence, and this is the number one thing, is jamming with other people in a room where you can see them, right? Hey, let's do this. Let's do that. And it's in real time. What it does is it forces you to commit to ideas. Once you start something, there's no going back. You're in the middle of a song. Other people are playing along with you. You got to commit to what you're playing. And when you commit to what you're playing, for better or for worse, it comes off confident. Even if it's not a great solo, you meant to do it. There's a confidence to it there. Maybe it didn't work out, but maybe it did too. So you could record a 1-minute solo challenge, share it with a friend, see if they play something along with it, send it back to you. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. But really, This is topical for me. I have a lot of people in my life who struggle with confidence, especially when it comes to music. And, I'm going to leave you with this. You don't need to worry about what other people think so much. You do that, you're missing out on the good stuff. Just think that, let's put it this way. Just say, Lee gave me license. Lee asked me to do this today. He asked me to go and play some music and intentionally not worry about what other people think. Put it on me. I can take it. Get out there and play something. Have some fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be panic inducing. It's supposed to be fun. And if you're panicked when you're doing that, don't feel like that's normal. It's not. You need to get past that. There's a reason why you're worrying about that stuff so much. And you need to figure out what that is so you can move forward. And one of the things is preparation, not feeling prepared enough or feeling like you're in over your head. So stop worrying what people think, start preparing, and put yourself into these iffy situations that could go either way. And if you stink it up one day, hey man, I've done it a million times, but I've done it many, many more times where it came out great and had a wonderful time. And I want that for you today. There we go. There's the podcast. I'm going to remind you, don't forget to grab my free email course. So it took a while. I want to make sure that it was perfect before I put it out there. This is the update to my old blues soloing course. This has a lot more things for you to do in it, a lot more licks and solos and stuff like that. So this is called Blues Solo Breakthrough, 6 Steps to Confident Killer Guitar Solos. And this is also an email course. So you'll be getting one each day for 6 days. It's pretty cool. It's packed with tips and strategies to help you play with confidence, make every note count. It is up right now. And I'm going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you have benefited from this podcast, as I always ask, how about an Apple Podcast review? That's going to help this podcast get to more people around the world. And does more help and structure and results in your guitar playing sound good to you? What are you waiting for? Head over to the Academy. Come join us on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern for our Q&A and our little group class there. It's a lot of fun for all members of the Academy, every level that's open for them. Okay, I'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.